Okay, so this morning we're going to run through our PCM-Archiver. Um, I'm Nicole Jardin. I'm joining you from Calgary, and I'm the founder and CEO of Emerald. And I was um, one of the main consultants dealing with expedition, contract management, contract manager, and all the other names that the software has had over the years. So I've helped many clients with their archiving of projects out of contract management. So um, contract management, of course, started back in the DOS days in the 80s and was Expedition, went through many different rebrandings, and it's been used all over the world for dealing with um, contracts, dealing with documentation, dealing with cost control. Okay, and we have clients who used it for a bit of everything, and quite a few groups just used it for a specific component out of those three capabilities. Now, the difficulty you get into with any of these kind of tools is after the projects are done, or in this case, when the software is not being maintained and it's starting to get a bit old, you need to get your data out because contract commitments, legal commitments, you've got to keep that data. So extracting the data in an organized manner, getting it into a backup that's usable and not dependent on any software is a struggle. So we don't want to do this manually, of course. We need our project history. We need it out. We need it usable. And you want to do that in a way that's easy and not time consuming, right? And grabbing not only the source documents, but extracting all the attachments can be challenging, very challenging. And hopefully you're not in any claims or legal situations, but obviously if you've got claims, you need to be able to show that your data that you've got was legit, and was the same as what was put in at the time during the historical documentation of the project. So those are all challenges that are difficult to deal with, and that's really what PCM-Archiver was built to do. So PCM-Archiver's at least 10 years old and possibly older. And we built it for this exact reason. We had clients that needed to provide, the original mandate was clients needed to provide documents back to the project owner typically after the job was done. So they needed an easy way to do that. That was sort of the starting point. And then more and more, of course, as groups have moved off contract management, moved up to Unifier, moved to Aconex or other tools, they needed a way to get the data out, okay? Now, we also have a migrator. So if you're looking at moving to Unifier and you actually want to have some of the projects moved in to Unifier, we've also got a migrator, okay? But for projects that are done and don't need to be in reporting, portfolio reporting, and that sort of thing, taking them out into an archive is also a very good option. And that's another thing that you can do, of course, with PCM-Archiver. So I'm going to jump in and I'll show you the tool, but let me just kind of explain an overview of how the tool works. So we allow you to extract the documents by project, by module, also by vendor. Okay, so those are the three kind of filtering criteria that is available. Now, if your objective is just to get the whole project out, those filters are not as important, okay? But it depends on the need of the archiving that you're trying to do. Now, it takes the document out, the record of the document, so all the fields that you filled in, and it puts it into an Excel sheet. We also take the documents out and print it. So the printout that you would have done of either through a PDF or through emailing a PDF, we take a printout of that document. We also grab all the attachments. So any attachments that you've put up will also come out. And that gives you your folder structure. So it keeps a detailed record with a folder structure that matches what's in PCM. And it also takes a backup of the project, a backup that can be restored into contract management. Okay, so that may be less valuable if your intent is just to move out and get a separate archive. Okay. Now, in terms of which versions we work with, anything above version 11, the archiver works with. Okay, so there were some technology changes on the way printouts are done partway through the versions, so we accommodate both. Okay, so if you're on the latest version, the last version that was put out, 14, it's a BI report type of engine, and the previous versions is our PDF Adobe versions. Okay, so we support both. The way we deploy the software can be a little different depending on those two versions, so we do need to know which version you're running on. Okay, so I think that gives you kind of an overview of how the tool works. Let me jump in to contract management and give you the lay of the land, and then I'll show you the archiver and how it runs. Okay. Okay, just give me a sec. Let me just do one thing here and we'll be ready to go. Okay, let me switch to sharing my other screen where I've got contract management and I've got the archiver as well. Okay, Shannon, can you see that? I have a feeling it might be a little small, but I think right now I don't think I can figure out how
Sorry,
to.
it's just on mute there. Yes, I can see it.
Okay, 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 good. So let me explain what you're looking at here. So I've jumped into our contract management demo environment, and what you're looking at is just a list of projects. Okay. Now I'm going to, just for the sake of time during the demo, I'm going to only extract a handful of documents just to give you the idea of how this works. So inside of this project called demo, I'm going to extract some contracts. So let me go ahead and show you some contracts. And I'm going to focus on a particular vendor. Again, it's only for the sake of time during the demo, just to give you the feel of how this works. So I'm going to extract, I can extract the whole thing because there's not that many, but I'm going to show you the documents related to this one company called Standard Paving. Okay, it's actually going to be this one. So in this case, there's two different contracts that we've given them, one for site restoration, one for earthworks. So it's going to extract the document. And of course, contract documents have line items, so they've got money, monetary values against them. They could have attachments, okay? They can have one or many. It doesn't matter to the tool. It will do the extract of all the attachments. As well, it will do a printout. So when you go to print preview and you print this, okay, it's just not working in this environment because it's, I need the right plugins and whatnot. It will do the PDF printout, okay, that you would normally have when you do a print preview, which is what you would call your default printout. So it'll take that as well, and it's going to take it out into standard folder type structure, zip file that you can then use and navigate. I'm also going to take out some documents. So I'm going to take out the RFIs. I think they're in communication. Nope, I have that wrong. They're in one of these folders. Project, no, that's weird. Am I blind? Oh, here, it's right here. Sorry, I am blind. It's under the contract info. I'm going to take out RFIs. Again, just to give you a flavor of the documents. And again, I'm going to show you the standard paving ones, but we'll take out all of these, okay? Not all of them have attachments. That's why I'm going to show you the specific one here for bad weather. Now, bad weather, we have one attachment, pipe, dimension, weights, and so on. So same thing, it's going to take all the fields that have been filled in, including custom fields, okay? And this database has a lot of custom fields because over the years we've added various examples from clients. So we've got a lot of custom fields. And it'll take the document out and we can navigate to it very easily in PCM-Archiver. Okay. Okay, so this part might have been a bit hard to see. It's probably the way my VM is set up, but the PCM-Archiver I think is going to be easy for you to see. So let me jump to that. I think that is going to be more visible, and hopefully that's where the main work of this demo will be. Okay, so I've logged in to the Archiver, and once I'm in the Archiver, I can see anything that I've extracted in the last many logins. Okay, so as you can see, this is going back to August. So I can do an extraction and I can download that at any time. Okay, I don't have to extract it, download it right away. The history will be there and it will be available to me. Now let's go ahead and set up an extraction from the Archiver. Okay, so let me explain those filter capabilities. So I can take many projects out at once, or I can do one at a time, totally up to me, depending on what I'm trying to do. So that's in the project area. So the project I was just showing you is the one here called Demo. But if I wanted to, I could take them all out, okay? Now, if you've got very big projects, that may not be the best option. It might make more sense to do them bit by bit and keep an organized list and run through them bit by bit, okay? So it completely depends on your environment and what you're trying to work through. So in our example, again, for sake of time, I'll keep it simple. I'll take out one project called Demo, and then I can go and choose the modules that I want to take out. So the modules are the different document types, okay? And we're reading the database that I showed you, and it can have many, many different document types, as you can see here. So out of the box ones, as well as custom built ones. So we can read both types. So in our example, I wanted to take out contracts. I can go ahead and take out change orders. And we want it to do RFIs. Okay, so I can just scroll down. These are listed alphabetically, and I can take out RFIs. Okay, now I can take out any documents. Just for the sake of time, I'm just going to keep it simple and take out a few. Now I can also extract using a filter by a vendor. Okay, so this was useful when people were needing to make certain commitments for a vendor. They needed to give the vendor that participated on the project all the documentation. This is why this was valuable. It's a little less used now because we're kind of at the point where people are sunsetting contract management, so they're taking out the whole project set. But if you do need to take it by a vendor, you can definitely do it. Okay. Now, since I've pre-filtered the project, pre-filtered the modules, what I'm actually taking out is not that big, won't take us too long. So I'll go ahead and take out every vendor with documents in that project of those three types. Once I've made my selection, I can just go ahead and say, go ahead and run it. So submit, and off it goes. Okay. So it's going to let me know kind of what it's doing. So this is certainly something that you could run in the evening. If you're extracting a large set of data, you can certainly run it. You can also run it in the day. It's very lightweight. It's not going to prevent you from continue to work on other things. Okay, so you can do it kind of whatever makes sense for your particular project. Okay, so in there you saw that it said fail. If it came up pretty quick, so you may or may not have seen it. It also reports if there's anything I do not see anything on the screen. Oh, my goodness. Is anyone else having a problem with seeing what I'm showing, or?
I can see your screen, Nicole.
Okay. Okay, so one of the participants is struggling seeing the screen. I'm not quite sure what's causing that. We are recording it, so that is a backup plan if for some reason there's a technical problem on the end user side. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what's causing that. Okay, so it did the extraction. So let's go ahead and download the file, and then we can run through what that looks like. So I'm going to download it, and I'm going to download it to the C drive, and I've got a folder here called PCM for all my extracts. Okay, so I'm going to call it webinar 2021-09-14. Okay, and I'll save it. Okay, and then I'm going to open this software that we use to browse to it. It's called 7-Zip. It's a free software tool. And the reason we use it is it works better than browsing natively. Let's see, I'm not sure if I can make this bigger. This is a little small. Goodness, I'm not sure how to make that bigger. Let me see if I can do anything here. It was a little small, wasn't it, Shannon? I don't know if I can make this bigger. Let me see if I change my resolution. If that will come out bigger for you. Let's just see if it's how it's coming out. No, that doesn't seem to help. Sorry, guys, I'm not quite sure. It looks kind of small to me, so it may be small for you. So here is the folder that it created, and it gives us a list of what's come out in that extraction. So in my case, I took out one project. So that's what we're seeing here. Now it also creates a text file to let you know what came out. So let me go ahead and open that. And I did have trouble demoing this part one other time in the sizing, but let's see if I can get it to, okay, that's not too bad. So it lets us know what it did. So what it actually did during that extraction. It also lets me know if it had trouble extracting anything. Okay, so it gives me here a list. It says 4 documents it had some trouble with. So it tells me 54 were tried, 50 worked, 4 had some trouble. Okay, and it's going to tell me what the problems were. So it's very handy, especially if you ran it, let's say in the evening, and you walked away from it and you come back, you know, you want to know right out of the gate whether there were any struggles that it encountered. Okay. Now, typically what I'm finding is any of the issues are really issues related here to the attachments. And it's because you have the capability of putting an attachment as a URL, which of course is nothing that it needs to extract. So in a way, it's a little bit of a false positive here. So these are all URLs that it had trouble with. Now, if it had trouble with an attachment, it's conceivable attachment could be corrupted. So that would also be logged as basically a failed document extraction. Okay, so that's the other thing that I've seen is if the file that is actually up there somehow, some way has become corrupted. Otherwise, it should be able to extract it, including whether you've got it in a different type of document repository like SharePoint. It's still able to extract it and bring it down out of that repository. Okay, so this is a handy starting point. So you take a look at that, see whether there were any issues, so that you know right away whether there's some documents you might need to go into PCM and take a look at, see whether it starts out with the project and it takes it exactly the same as what it's called in PCM. And then it the next layer it does is it creates the tree structure that you had in PCM. So I took documents that were in the contract tree structure and secondly in the project controls tree structure. So that's how it takes it out. And then I can navigate one layer deeper. So again, it keeps the tree structure and the documents were in two folders, one called change orders, one called requests for information, okay? And so I can navigate into them. So let me go back by one and just go back by one. And let's start actually with project controls so I can go look at the contract. Okay, so we had a contract and we extracted all the contracts. So it shows you the structure here. So the structure includes the project and then the number of the contract and then the vendors involved in the contract, okay? So it has the to and from vendor in there so that it's easier for you to search. So that's why we've included that, because you may not know the contract number, you may know the vendors involved, okay? So that's why we've included that in the naming convention for the folder structure, okay? So we had two for standard paving. That's the one I want to use as the example. And this is one of the documents, one of the contracts. So we include three things. We include the PDF default printout. Oops, sorry, let me just click on that. We include the PDF default printout that you had for that module. So this, in this example, it's one of those vanilla out of the box, came with contract management type of printout. Okay, so that gives you the fields that are inside of that particular PDF. And in this case, including the line items. Okay, so that's what's there. And any approvals and whatnot. That's what's going to come out in that. Okay, so that's one piece that it includes. The next piece is all the fields, and it takes that out in Excel, again, so that you can use it in any, Excel's pretty generic. You can get access to the fields in pretty much any software, okay? I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, that threw some of the fields over here. Let me just, sorry, I shouldn't have double clicked on that field. So the field values are there. So this is every single field that was in that module, whether it's been used or not, whether it's got any data in it or not, it's taking all the fields and putting the information out, okay? So that also includes potentially fields that you don't see on the screen. So back-end fields that contract management records, okay? So all the fields that are filled out are inside of here. Now that includes the line items, okay? So these are the dollar amounts that we saw in the PDF printout. Okay, again, it takes every single field inside that table and the issues. So if you used issues, if you tagged the documents with issues, it will take those out as well, okay? If you've got a workflow, it'll take that out as well. So in this case, there was no workflow on this project. So it takes all those pieces, components, and puts them out into Excel so you have all the source data. Okay. And then the third thing it does, it takes out any of the attachments. So in my example, I had one called Employee Handbook as an attachment. So it takes it out and you can then open up the attachments and see them, okay? Okay, so that's just a random attachments that's been included. So that's what it does. So it's very simple to use. And as you can see, I've got nothing special in terms of software required now to browse to the documents and work with them, okay? So I can go back I could go look at the other standard paving contract. Okay, I can search inside there. If I need to find a certain contract number or whatnot, I can search inside there. Okay, so again, same sort of thing. We've got a stat deck declaration. We've got the PDF of the contract, and we've got, you know, the Excel file with the all the fields filled out. Okay, so all the formats are the same. They come out with the same components so that you can navigate through and find the documents and work with them. Okay, now let's go back and let's look at some of the documents that we took out. Okay, so we took out some other documents, and one was the RFIs. So let's go look at that. Okay, so again, it takes all the RFIs because I didn't filter just to a vendor. If I had asked just for standard paving, it would have only taken the one. Okay, but in my case, I said take everything inside that one module. So let's look at the RFI. So the RFI was related to, in this case, rock encountered. And that RFI is got a branded printout. Okay, so if you had done some work to brand your different printouts, we will take those printouts and not the vanilla generic example that I showed in the contracts. Okay, so it's going to use whatever's been set as the default printout. So that allows you to get, you know, the document that was, you know, pre-created to include all the fields that you wanted to use in contract management. So this is typically how you're going to get your custom fields to come out. Okay, so if you've done that work, you're still going to be able to have it come out, and it will take any other attachments. So this is just some random picture of rock. It's very small, so it's coming out small. So it's not limited to PDFs, is what I'm trying to show you here. Any attachment that you've applied will come out. Okay. Now, of course, to see that attachment, you might need the native software to see that attachment. Let's say you've got a PDF, sorry, not a PDF, an AutoCAD drawing. You know, you need the AutoCAD viewer or the source software to see those tools. But for the most part, people usually save those in PDF so they can access them that way. So again, we have the Excel file as well that comes out. And same thing, you know, we take all the fields that are inside of that module, including back-end fields, things like these master keys that are contract management fields, they'll come out, they'll be filled in as well, so that we can show that we are taking the full complement of fields, nothing hidden, nothing left behind, that sort of idea. And in this case, issues as well. So RFIs don't have the line items like money documents like a contract do. So there's only 2 tabs in this case. There could be a third if there were any workflows. So we would take the workflow. This project I don't think had any workflow because it's a very old project example. Okay, good. So I think I've given you a flavor of how this works, how easy it is to use. If anyone has any specific questions, go ahead and throw them in the questions or the chat, and I can try and address them, especially since I'm in. Okay. Can you try press Control then mouse roll? Oh, I'm not sure. That I'm not sure. If that's just increasing the size. Hopefully you could see the Excel sheet when I zoomed in. Okay, let's just see if we've addressed the questions. I don't see any other questions, so Again, it's a very simple tool. It has a very niche usage. And, if you've been using contract management and you need to get those data components out, this is the tool. This is the tool for you to allow you to do that. Okay. Okay, good. So I'll jump out of the software. I'll go back into the PowerPoint. I'll talk about some case studies, give you some examples of some of the different scenarios. And then we'll open it back up for questions. And if I need to jump back into the software, I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, let me share material. Is it working? Just a second here. Okay, there we go. I think it's coming up. Okay, good. All right. So so just to recap, you set up your extraction, filter what you wish, projects, modules, and vendors, and you can mix and match as appropriate. You can go ahead and pull those out. You get the archive. You can bring that out into the zip file. And then once you've got the zip files, you can place them, where you're going to share them for the long-term archive, okay? That can be in a SharePoint folder. It can be just in a network drive. It can be in the cloud. It can be inside your environment. So all that is controlled by you. And then, as I showed, you can navigate through the zip files, look at the attachments, look at the summary data to explain, how the archive went and all that good information. So really, why do people come and purchase the tool, deploy it? I think the answer is probably somewhat obvious. It's very easy to use. It's flexible. It gets your data out, and it saves you a ton of time. Actually trying to go through one project at a time, manually archiving it would take you hours, weeks, possibly months, depending on how big your project is. So this works very, very quickly. Even on large projects, it can extract within a few hours. So, it's of course a huge time saver. And it's also an very accurate representation. Okay? The worst thing you could do is take only part of the documents out, miss some. And if you're in a claim situation, that would be a big mistake. That would be potentially a costly mistake if you can't prove that you have all the documents. Okay, so this takes that guesswork out of the equation. And as you can see, it's very easy to work with. So it gives you the detailed record, and it's accurate. And that's the key here. And then, you can take your server. A lot of companies are running old PCM servers because the technology hasn't been upgraded in many years. When they decided to stop working on the tool, the technology's changed, it's gotten old. And in many cases now, it's potentially unsecured. So that's why people are now starting to look at moving off of these, okay? So some of you probably saw some of our case studies in our mailer. Let me just chat about a few of them. So we've done large full database extractions. We've also done some that were just for a particular vendor, and we've done some that were in between. So it was a whole project that needed to be taken out and given to the owner. So in that case, it was an engineering company. They had committed to using contract management for all the projects with a certain owner, which was a Department of Transportation. Once each project was completed and closed out, their commitment was to take the projects out and give them back, all the documentation, to the client. So they used PCM-Archiver for 3 projects. And during those projects, so one of the things that we do when we work with a client is if there's something that they need that we didn't ever need at this point in Archiver. So in their case, they used letters. And so up to that point, we hadn't had any clients that used letters. So we added the module to the system. So if ever there is a gap, we try and fill it if there's a need. There's no point in building a bunch of things that people don't need. So we kind of do them as we go. So when we sell this software, it is a service that goes along with it to assist and make sure that things are working in your environment. We've had a few clients that did the archive quite a bit after the projects were completed. So in some cases, there were some technical problems. For example, they dropped the connection to their SharePoint. They moved the SharePoint and or the PCM, I can't remember the specific. So we had to help them get that relinked properly so the archive could work. So it is sold with a bit of consulting time just to make sure that it's a success. And as I mentioned, we will add features if there's a need. Okay, so another example of a client was just a few months ago, airport group in Atlanta. Again, same thing, they ran all their document control using contract management. So they had many, many projects, some large, some very large ones, some small ones. And in their case, they had some server struggles, timeout things like that. So we made some enhancements to the tool, the way the reporting is coming out, to make it easier for them to see where anything didn't work, so that it was easier for them to just re-extract certain pieces. Okay, so that's partly why we do a little bit of consulting with it, just to make sure that it works well no matter what. And then we've done very, very large client examples where they had been using contract management for over 15 years. And they had hundreds and hundreds of large and small projects. So in that client example, it was the Capital Health in Edmonton, which is AHS now, Alberta Health Services. They had used contract management for a very, very long time. And they decided to deploy Unifier as their go-forward tool. And in their case, they decided to just start net new projects in Unifier rather than migrate projects from PCM up to Unifier. So they finished the projects in contract management. They left them there for a length of time, and then they did the archive of the whole system. So that was a bit of a longer process. We worked on that job for a little bit of time. It was a bit more elaborate. So it was a few-month project. And they were the ones who wanted some of the data extracted in Excel and whatnot. So we enhanced the software a little bit with them during that project. So it was a bit more of a consulting project in that scenario. So depending again on your needs, I doubt you're going to need quite that much work, but in their case, they needed quite a bit of work. They had very specific requirements. They want it fulfilled. And it was a long-term client for us, so it was a consulting project for us. And others have benefited from that because the tool's been enhanced with some of their requirements. And the deployment is more now of a short-term consulting effort, and it can be a few days to a few months for you to extract all your projects, depending on your specifics. Okay, and then quite a while ago, we had some clients that had specific requirements to be able to give each vendor that participated on the project their documents in and above giving the client the whole project set. Okay, so that's why we also have that client vendor folder extraction. Okay, so that was to meet that particular need. So there was no no potential to accidentally give them another vendor's documents. That's why that was built. Okay. Okay, good. So I think I've done enough to give you a flavor for case studies. So the way that we sell this software is it's a software as a service, and it's either by project or we deploy it for a length of time, so a year long. So you can extract your projects as you need to, not with a very short fixed amount of time. Okay. Now the break point is usually after 4 to 5 projects. It may make sense just to get the yearly package and go ahead and do the extractions. Okay, so it's that gives you an idea of the way that can work. Now, typically, in terms of deploying it, you would typically deploy it typically in the same location as where you've got PCM. It's not mandatory depending on your version, but some of the versions, that's the best way to deploy it. You obviously need to have a place to run the archive out because it can be quite large. So you need to make sure you've got a space for that set up. So the archive can put it in a place that's large enough without hitting any memory roadblocks. So those are some of the things to keep in mind. You need to be able to obviously log in as a user that can do the archiving, okay, which is again not generally an issue. So those are some of the things to keep in mind if you're going to go down this route and do the archiving. Okay, good. So if you have any questions, chat them through. We'll tackle them as I do the wrap up. This is our archiving month. So not only do we have contract management archiving, we've also got Unifier archiving. So if some of you have migrated from contract management into Unifier, and you know you're going to need to archive the projects out for the exact same reasons that we need it to from contract management, we'll have a webinar later in the month for that. I also mentioned that we have a migrator. So if you were using contract management and you do want to migrate some of your projects because you want to keep them in the same portfolio reporting up in your Unifier, reach out to us on that. We have a lot of different solutions, partly because we were a technology partner first before we were ever selling the software. And we have that programming foundation in the team. We've always had it from the beginning of Emerald's 27 years of being a partner to Primavera and of course Oracle now. So reach out if there's some other archiving that you're interested in doing. We also have many archiving tools for P6 as well. So we will have some webinars on that too. So just go to our webinar page on our website and you can take a look. And we've got a lot of other tools that we've built to also enhance these tools. So we've got loaders for these tools. So we have a PCM loader. Of course, if you're not using PCM actively, that may not be so much of interest. But if you are using Unifier, we've got a Unifier loader and we've got P6 loaders. So this lets you set up data in Excel and load it up. So they're really handy. So a lot of what we do in our company is to enhance your ability to use these tools with very easy, lightweight tools, similar to what you've seen here today. Okay, so that's been a big emphasis at Emerald, is to add on tools. So making these tools much easier. And of course, that goes along with our integration skills. Okay, so reach out for any of those types of things. And again, that's what we're here for. Okay, that's what we've been known for since the beginning, is our integrations, our automations, so P6 calculator, and other enhancement we've done to contract management and Unifier. We've got a lot of specialty calculator type functions that we've built in those tools to make your use of these tools much, much better. Okay, so still don't see any questions, which is fine. It's a pretty simple tool. So if you're a PCM user, I think you probably get a good gist of how this tool works. So absolutely feel free to reach out after the webinar if there are things that you wanted to explore because you've been using it. Also, I'll just throw a quick poll question up there. It might be an easier way to let us know if there is a communication method you do want us to use. So if you have an immediate need, you want to understand more about pricing, or if you want to know more about the PCM archiver, go ahead and let me know. And that's helpful. It just helps us know how best to keep communicating with you on this particular subject. Okay, excellent. And thanks for attending. You can also get me at my coordinates here. You can also send an RFI into Emerald. So either way, that way we can keep moving the conversation forward and help with any of your different needs, but of course with your PCM archiving needs specifically. Okay, great. Thanks for attending. I'll close out the session now. Thank you.